Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome to episode 4 of Europa Universalis IV. In the last episode we talked about war and getting one started. Now unfortunately I had a little bit of a mishap and lost most of my army to the Moroccans. It was my own fault, I got a little bit too greedy and marched forwards into the hills of Fez and got absolutely trounced. Didn't help much by the fact that I'm fairly certain the AI was cheating because it always seems to get better rolls than the player does, but that is just the way of things. So essentially when you start a war, the main thing you are going for is this number down here, which is war score. A negative number, as we have at the moment, means we are losing the war, and a positive number means that you are winning the war. You can see by clicking on this little shield button down in the bottom right hand corner who is on both sides, and each war has a name. This is the Castilian Conquest of Tangiers because we started it and we were using Tangiers as our war goal. We can see that Portugal have come into the war on my side as an ally, and Morocco also have Granada, Tripoli and Tunisia on their side as allies. In total, I still think we're slightly ahead in troops because we have actually hired a lot of mercenaries to fill up the gap created by the soldiers lost in the Battle of Fez. Now, never be afraid to go over your force limit. I have mentioned before that it can be expensive, but it's much better to be in debt and take out some loans and increase your inflation than it is to lose the war. Now, in order to be able to declare peace, you need to have at least a war score of positive 10 to be able to get anything out of it and actually consider the war a win. Otherwise, you're basically just ending the war and conceding defeat in a white peace. Now, one thing it is worth keeping an eye on is the individual members of the enemy alliance. Now, all of these guys have high war enthusiasm, so it's pretty difficult to do anything with them. But when you do start getting members of the enemy alliance that start to get medium or well, their war exhaustion, when their war enthusiasm, I'm getting the two terms mixed up. When their war enthusiasm is low, you could possibly be able to peace out an individual nation. So, for example, if Tunisia had low war enthusiasm, and assuming, of course, I had some positive war score, I may be able to make a peace deal with Tunisia and get Tunisia to leave the war. Now, there are some you will never be able to do it with. Like, for example, if you actually look at Tripoli here, you can see they have a little dove with a red cross next to it. And that is because a vassal or lesser partner of a union cannot sign a peace treaty. These guys have no say in whether or not they're part of the war. They're involved in the war because Morocco basically owns them, so they don't have a say in the matter. However, Granada and Tunisia are just allies and can be independently pieced out. So, in order to get positive war score, there are several things you can do. You can win battles, that includes land battles and naval battles. You can also blockade the enemy's ports, as we are doing up here in the Straits of Gibraltar. We only have a 51% blockade, unfortunately, because we don't have an awful lot of ships here. We don't have enough ships to make a proper blockade. But as you can see by mousing over, Gibraltar is blockaded to 100% because it has a low tax base. It's only 3. Granada has a tax base of has a tax base of 6, which means we're blockading it to 96%. But because Tangiers has a very high tax base, it is 8. We are not really blockading it at all, but we are getting some blockades going on over here. So you also get positive war score from sieging the enemy territory and for holding it, particularly the war goal and the enemy capital. They are both very important places to siege and hold. Now, it is worth remembering that you can only get a maximum of 40% war score through combat, through actual battles. So it doesn't matter if you want to, you cannot sit defensively and just farm the enemy armies because you'll never get above 40% war score. Now, a few other interesting things that it is worth noting. The higher the war score you have when you peace out, the longer the peace treaty will be. Now, this is a change that was made to EU4 in one of the recent updates. It always used to be a set length of time, which I believe was 5 years. But if you take a peace treaty now with a war score of up to and around 100%, I think the peace treaty is something ridiculous like 10 or 15 years, and less war score will give you a lower or a shorter time on the peace treaty. Now, if you're at war with somebody and you actually manage to siege all of their lands and wipe out all of their troops, it's 100% war score automatically. So if you are up against a nation that might only have a couple of provinces, let's say we were looking at Armagnac here. Armagnac has 2 provinces. If we were to siege both of these provinces and kill all of their armies, and that's assuming there were no allies involved in the war, that would be instantly 100% war score against them. Because once a province is sieged, then the enemy can no longer create troops there. So, continuing where we left off for the last video, we are just landing some more reinforcements in Tangiers. Now, another thing that is very important is if you actually go in and look at your... not the military screen, got to remember where it is now. Stability and expansion. You will actually see you have this little thing up here called war exhaustion. Now, you can reduce your war exhaustion by spending diplomatic power. We don't need to do that. But you can see the effects of war exhaustion, which can go from 0 up to 20. And it gives you, it basically gives you a lot of demodifiers. Increases the national revolt risk, reduces the speed at which your manpower recovers. It increases the shipbuilding time and the recruitment time. Increases core creation cost and reduces your siege ability. So you really don't want to have that. Now, it's 75 diplomatic power in order to be able to reduce that. I am going to do it actually here and take it right down because that will help speed things along. Now, you do want to make sure you save quite a bit of diplomatic power and administrative power. They are both very important things in a war. I'm just going to unpause here. You need the diplomatic power for making a declaration of peace because you actually need that to take things in the peace deal. And then after the declaration of peace, that is when we will need the administrative power, but we will cover that as and when we come to it. So I am getting some more units that are arriving over here in Cadiz. I'm going to group them together and they are going to be ready to come across on the next boat. You'll notice there that the blockade has just gone up to 100%. That's because there are now some Portuguese ships here. If we just click on this stack, in fact, if we actually highlight the whole thing, we've got our mercenaries there. Just try, there we go, massing over. We can see that Portugal actually have a couple of different fleets in there as well. So they have one fleet with 3 heavies and a... is that the caravel or the light? It's the caravel, the light ship. So they have one fleet with 3 heavies and a light, and they also have another fleet with 1 heavy, 6 lights, and 8 transports. So we do have a lot more going on for us in terms of our blockading there. These are rebels that are really Portugal's problem. It is possible if they siege this place that they may come after our guys, but they're not really interested in fighting. They're just interested in sieging land, so shouldn't really be too much of a problem for us at this point. We can see that the Moroccans do have an army coming in. It's going to arrive in Tangiers on the 26th of September. Now, it is a bigger army than the army we have. There's no way that we are going to be able to defeat that army in a straight up fight, but let's just group these guys together. What you do have to remember is we do have a leader, they have a leader as well. They have a relatively good leader. It could go either way. We are going to try and get some more people across. Now, what you can do is if you actually have a ship out in the water, you can actually just move the troops straight into the ship and then straight onto the land. That's because what these guys are essentially doing, what I did on the previous video, is dock my ships dock, my guys get aboard, and then the ship takes them out to Tangiers. What's happening here is the guys are actually sort of getting on their little boats, going out to the main fleet of ships, and then boating back out to Tangiers. The reason I'm doing it this way is because it means I don't have to move my ships out of the straits and we can continue with the blockade. Now, it is very, very possible that we could end up losing this fight again. It's also worth remembering we do have the defensive position here, of course, because we are actually in... you know, we were there first, and whoever gets there first has the defensive advantage. It's also quite possible that when these guys arrive, they are going to end up with a penalty because they will be crossing a river. They are going to arrive on the 1st of October now, so they obviously changed their mind at some point. Let's have a quick look at our force limit. Actually, we'll do it this way and see what we've got. We are still very, very below our force limit. We can hire some more mercenaries. There aren't a huge number available for hire, but we will do that. And we're also running quite short on cash as well. Now, if you are going to hire mercenaries, you're better off hiring your infantry close to the front lines and the cavalry further away, because the cavalry can move faster. And, of course, we have started a battle. Now, you can instantly see that the Moroccan army have actually got a -1 penalty for crossing a river. We still have the better discipline and the better base morale, although we both have the same military tactics. Let's see how this turns out, although I know how these battles usually turn out, because, as I've said before, the AI cheats. And as we can see, Morocco have rolled a 7 compared to our 0. Thanks very much, AI. Can you at least play fairly? We were winning until that roll, and now it's going against us. There's another roll, a 7 compared to a 2. Of course, they're getting the +1 bonus, the fire, from their leader. They're also getting a +1 shot bonus, so they're rolling ahead of us again. So we actually both rolled 1s, but no, that's pretty even because they get a +1 and a -1. Slightly favourable roll there. Now, when are these guys going to arrive? I'm just going to pause a second. I want to see these soldiers when they're going to arrive. There is the... Can't see the army. I was hoping they'd get there in time before this fight ends as we roll another 0. We're doing very, very poorly here. These guys might get there just in time to reinforce, but I'm not confident it's going to happen. We rolled a 7. We really needed that to try and help things along. We rolled a 0. That didn't help at all. And I think at this point our army's probably going to break and we're going to lose the fight. Oh no, we did get reinforced. Our guys that were on the boat did turn up just in time to get there, which put our morale up a little bit more. It hasn't helped an awful lot. The AI is still beating us here. They still have a lot more men than we do. We've actually rolled an 8. That was a very, very good roll. That means we reduce their men a little bit more. We're still not doing fantastic on rolls here. Now, it makes it very difficult for me to actually try and build a big army and land it here in Portuguese territory, because this is absolutely full of their rebels at the moment, so I can't do an awful lot about that. So what I'm going to have to do is wait until the outcome of this fight, and of course we've lost and managed to get even more negative war score. My army is now going to move into this area. It's automatic, I can't change that, and that's really bad for me because they are instantly going to get destroyed by the... rebels that were in this area. So I've just lost my entire army. So what I'm going to do, because these things do happen, so you know it's one of those things you can't do an awful lot about. What I'm going to do is rebuild my army, and then we will make an attack on Tangiers when we are a little bit more prepared to do so. We can also see here that Portugal have now managed to successfully siege Gibraltar. Now, unfortunately, our siege progress on Tangiers has been wiped out. So I'm going to build up my army, and then we will come back when there's something to report. Now, one thing I've just noticed here that's happened quite recently is these rebels have actually managed to siege this province, which belonged to Portugal, not originally, of course. Now, I'll talk about rebels and rebel demands in a future video, but one thing I have noticed that is very useful here is the Moroccans are actually going over there potentially to deal with them. Now, of course, what you've got to remember is that Portugal is an ally in this war, so Morocco are going to want to try and siege this province. But it does mean that they have left Tangiers, and if they clean up the rebels, which they are doing very nicely, at least I will be able to land some troops on one of these provinces. Because the one thing I don't want to do is, because I have a limited number of transport ships, I don't want to land my troops in the province that the soldiers are in, because they will get the defensive bonus and my troops will just get absolutely slaughtered. So I'm going to let the Moroccans wipe out the rebels. The Moroccans are losing some numbers in doing so, while my armies are starting to congregate in Cadiz, and then we'll go from there. So the Moroccans did manage to kill off the rebels that were here, and they are now sieging that province. I have a lot of units that are starting to get created, so I'm going to move them all to Cadiz. Now, one thing that I did do, these units are normal soldiers. I have got some mercenaries in the mix, but I was actually quite short of money, and what I've done is I've taken out a couple of loans so that I could afford to create some new troops. You can take out loans by going into the economy tab and hitting the take loan button. A loan is normally 5 years. The amount of money that you can borrow goes up as time goes on. It tells you that I can have up to 117 bank loans at the same time, which is quite ridiculous. You do pay interest on them, and your inflation does go up if you take out loans. But to be honest, taking out lots of loans is something that will happen very often in this game, and you shouldn't ever really be afraid of doing that. So here we go. We can now see a couple of things have happened here. We have just won the siege of Granada. Now this is fantastic, because what this now means is that these boats that were originally docked here in Granada have been forced out. So they're going to end up being fought by these ships here, or at least there should be. There we go. So we now have a naval battle going on. We can also move these guys out of Granada. We don't need them there anymore now, because Granada has been sieged. Not sure why Portuguese are going over there. But I think we've actually won this naval battle. Sometimes you do capture ships for winning the battles, but all in all, things seem to have gone rather well over there. Hopefully soon we will manage to take this province as well. Some more armies arriving. What you can see has happened over here as well is that they've actually gone back to their open port to repair. Let's just group these guys up together. I would like some more units if possible. I do need some more cavalry. Now, cavalry take quite a bit of time to get, but I'm also going to get a few more mercenaries, because mercenaries are cheap. And can we build some of our own units? Not really, we're out of money at this time. So, I shall allow things to carry on. So, something interesting has happened. We are actually now up to a slightly positive war score. Now, mainly that is because we've actually seized a couple of provinces here. We've actually seized Granada and Gibraltar. Even though the Portuguese have technically seized Gibraltar, it does count towards us because they are our allies. And we won a naval battle. And we're actually getting a peace offer from Granada. Now, Granada are willing to cede Almeria to Castile, and they will annul all of their peace treaties with Morocco, and they will pay us 54 ducats. The peace will cost them 40 diplomatic power with no CB. We gain 5 prestige, and we suffer 9.9 aggressive expansion. I'm actually going to decline this peace treaty because I want to take their last province here, and we want to do a lot more with Granada than just get one province from them. So we're definitely going to siege out all of their territory. That will give us even higher war score, and then we will talk about doing the peace treaty once we've actually got a little bit more to bargain with. Okay, so a couple of things that have happened quite recently. One is I got an event to choose between. One gave me the option of -1 stability, which I was never going to take, especially during a war. The other option was to gain some cash, but it also gave me a little bit of tax reduction. And getting the instant cash boost was preferable, so I decided to take that option. At the same time, we've now won the siege of Almeria, which means we now have sieged all of Granada's lands. This also means here that their fleet is going to be forced out of port. These guys are going to now move over to Cadiz because we no longer need to siege this territory here. Now, what we could do, and what I probably will do, is I am going to take my heavies over here. And we're going to see if, well, we've got our heavies and our galleys. And we're going to see if we can get over here and actually take out these Granadan ships that are trying to siege our territories here. At the same time, we'll just pause up for a second and we will continue to get ourselves some more mercenaries. And then hopefully we can go and drop a nice big death stack on top of the Moroccans. So we have arrived here. We have a naval battle going on. Now, naval battles work a little bit differently to the way that land battles do. They work pretty much the same way that the AI cheats and gets massively better rolls than you do, but you see the individual health of all of your ships versus all of their ships. And it is actually possible to capture ships in the battle. So we actually won that battle. We didn't get any war score from it at all. Don't know where they're retreating to. Obviously going to retreat off to somewhere. They're probably going in this direction. So I'm going to go back down here and try and head them off. I do actually have some infantry, I think, on this ship. No, I thought I did, but I don't. And my navies, where's all my armies? One guy there, stack of 17, stack of 3. Yep, they're all moving up. So, Cadiz has a supply limit of 27, so I'm going to try and drop a nice big death stack on Tangiers. The only downside, of course, at the moment is that the Portuguese aren't really coming across to help us. Now, what's happened here is these Granadan ships have actually gone to dock in Tangiers to repair, which is fine because we're going to put our heavies back over there as well. Let's get the rest of these guys, make sure they're at full morale. And then hopefully the Moroccans will just keep trying to sort of get this province here, and then we can get all of our units across onto Tangiers safely. So we're going to see how well that works out shortly. Almost up to our force limit, but not quite at the moment. No more units in production. We are going to get ourselves some mercenary cavalry. We would have done if we could have afforded to get more. So let's get another infantry. And say we're going to go in with the biggest army we have possible. Okay, so we have about as large an army as we are going to be able to have. So what we are going to do now is start trying to move them into Tangiers. Now, we are still limited a little bit by the number of transports that we have. So we are going to have to be a little bit tactical here. So what we need to do is take our transports. I could have made this a little bit easier by building some additional transports, but we'll do as best we can. So we are going to take our army, we are going to attach them to the transport. We're going to bring the transports out to sea. Now what I am hoping is that these guys will just stay here and continue their siege. And I'm hoping they don't decide that they're going to just break their siege and instantly come after my troops, because that would be a little bit of a pain. We don't arrive until the 8th of October, which is a little bit unfortunate. It will take us a while to get that entire stack across there, but hopefully they're just going to be busy doing that and won't break the siege. We do have a leader. The leader goes across first. If you ever break a stack up, whether you're breaking it manually or whether you're actually splitting them up to fit on transports, the leader will always go across with the first split. So I'm going to speed things up a little bit. I'm going to keep one finger over the spacebar just in case I see them trying to move. Granada are willing to peace out. Let's just have a quick look at the peace deal, although I don't think it's going to be... Yeah, all they want to do is cede Almeria. We're going to continually decline that. Let's unpause the game. Make sure the speed stays up. We should arrive safely in Tangiers. Right, we have arrived and they are now actually sending a stack over here to come and deal with us. That's a little bit of a pain. We will have the defensive bonus, of course. What I need to try and do is get some more of my soldiers across, but we've got problems now because we've got such a limited number of transports. So I'm going to dock my transports. Hopefully these guys can hold out long enough. But knowing the rolls the AI get, it's probably unlikely. We're going to attach these guys to the transport, and we're going to try and land these guys as quickly as possible. Let's unpause the game so we can see what happens. Navy's arrived already. Let's try and drop these guys off. Let's have a look how the battle's going. Of course, Morocco's rolling 8s. We are rolling 1s. And we're going to get our army wiped out. And we lost again, so it doesn't look like we are going to have much of a chance of winning this war. However, Portugal have just come across with some of their own troops. Now, that is actually very, very interesting and useful to me. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take my soldiers and get them to land here, because the Portuguese are going to provide us with some cover. And while that's going on, because we've lost some units, we're going to go ahead and just get ourselves a few more mercenaries for speed. In fact, we might even be able to produce one of our own units. So now we're going to be able to get this done with the help of the Portuguese as well. So, okay, by using that tactic of ferrying our men across 6 at a time and dropping them here in the Portuguese territory, we've actually managed to get our entire army across. Now, the Moroccans haven't decided to come across and attack here, simply because there's already the rather large Portuguese army. So now I have my army, which is a stack of 23. I'm going to select my army. I'm going to leave the Portuguese there to de-siege. Now, one thing I'm going to make sure that I have is attached to this unit. This will allow the Portuguese army, or members of them, if they wish, to actually attach to my army. We're going to go over here and try and deal with the Moroccans if we can. Now, they are defending, so we will actually get the penalty here. However, they are actually trying to run, because they've realised they're going to get completely annihilated. They will arrive in Fez on the 30th of March. We will arrive on the 19th of March. So they're actually not going to get away from us here. So in goes the battle. How much will we get screwed by the rolls? Not sure why it's saying we don't have a leader, because we should. I definitely did assign a leader. One thing we should do is just have a look over here. Apparently our leader got de-signed for some reason. So we're going to take our transports back and pick up our leader, and we can add him to the battle. I should have checked that before. It's always worth making sure you have a leader, because a leader makes so much difference. So let's get that regiment picked up with the leader. And we will get them dropped off in Tangiers. We can drop them directly off. The fight will probably be over before he gets there. Although it does look like, and I really shouldn't say this because of course they start rolling massive numbers, but we should actually win this one. And we have. We actually won that particular battle. We gained some positive war score. And it now means we can start to siege Tangiers. And our guys are going to reinforce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip on and start sieging out Tangiers and then come back. Okay, so finally we have now won the siege of Tangiers. My army is almost up to full strength. I'm reinforcing it with a couple more units. Those two Granadan ships once again get booted out of the port because they no longer control it. So we should go ahead and win that fight quite easily, which we do. Don't get any war score for that. But because we now have Tangiers, we can actually see here that we have a 22 war score, which is quite the positive. The Portuguese have now managed to unsiege their territory over here quite nicely. Now, the Portuguese have actually gone in and engaged the Moroccans in Fez. Now, that's not particularly a great idea because Fez is very mountainous. And I get the feeling that as far as the battle goes, if I can actually select the battle, because the battle hasn't actually classed as starting yet, it looks like the Portuguese are actually going to lose. Could we get there in time to help them out? Let's go and have a look and see if it's possible. When would we get there? On the 28th of February. It is quite possible. 21st. 28th of February. I think the Portuguese are actually going to lose this battle. We arrived just in time to reinforce there. I'm just going to slow the speed down. Now, we're actually getting some good rolls here. We do have a terrain penalty and a crossing penalty because they're defensively in the mountains. But we are about to wipe that army out, I think. The rolls are pretty even at the moment. We're certainly losing more men, but we have more men to lose. Looks like the Portuguese are bringing across some of their own reinforcements too. So we now have the war goal. Now they can no longer produce units in Tangiers, which is really good for us. We won the battle. It gives us another 1.36 war score. Now those guys are going to run off. We're going to stay here in Fez and just allow things to progress, and I shall speed things up again. And the AI will probably go off and try and reinforce somewhere. Now, one thing you can do if you want to siege a particular province is you might want to move your army around, and what you can actually do is select your army and you can hit D for detach, and detach will detach one unit or enough units to siege that particular province. Now, the number of units that your number of regiments you need to detach a province really depends on the fort size and the garrison size of the province as well. We have the option to lose 1 stability or lose the legitimacy. I think we're going to take the hit to the legitimacy because that's not as important to us. Granada still wants to peace out. We're not going to get involved in that. Now, the reason I did detach that is I was going to go and take it down and siege Melilla, but it looks like the Portuguese are doing that for me. So I'm going to stay here in Fez. Fez is very, very mountainous, so the chances are I will have a very, very good terrain bonus if the Moroccans decide to attack me here. We are actually losing money now. We are losing 6.16 ducats every turn, and the main reason for that is because we have a lot of mercenaries, and they are very costly to us. So what will happen is at the end of each month, if we get into negative money, we will take a loan out automatically. So we're just going to wait for things to happen here. Looks like the Portuguese have decided to stop sieging there, so I'm going to hit D to detach a siege. I'm going to select the 2 regiments it's detached, and I'm going to put them there and go and siege that myself. Keeping 18 units here in Fez should be more than enough to be able to take it. And I'll just speed things on until some stuff happens. Now, one thing you will notice here is that these guys that are trying to siege Melilla are actually showing on their little flag here this little red symbol. And that basically means there are too few men to siege the province. It could be because they have taken some attrition, because there are 2 full regiments there. But what I can do is I can take these guys over here. I can select the army. And if we just take, if we go to, there's quite a lot of attrition units here. But I think what we will do is we'll take one of the infantry units. And what we're going to do is we're going to go create a new unit. And we want to just take over one of these mercs. We want to select this unit. And we will move that unit over there to go and reinforce. Portuguese are going off down there. They're probably going to chase after the rest of the Moroccan army. I could do that myself, but I'm more interested in trying to take this land. We can just see that we can hire a free military leader because our current military leader appears to have died. So we are going to get ourselves a leader, and he's actually pretty bad. He does have a lot of maneuver, but he has no fire, and he does have 2 shock. I'm going to instantly get rid of him. It is a bit of a waste, and try and get another one. Now, he actually has 4 fire. Fire is very, very useful early on, so we will get him. Can't actually assign him to anybody at the moment because we are not in friendly territory, or in our own territory. You do need to be in your own territory to assign a leader, which is a little bit of a pain. So, what I'm going to do is I will create, if I had the money, so we'll just wait till the end of the month. Oh, I'll unpause the game first. I didn't lose enough money to be able to do that. Granada asking for peace deals again. I'm going to go and take out another loan. And I'm just going to go ahead and create one unit over here. Oh, not enough manpower. This is my problem at the moment, not money. We're actually very, very low on manpower. Now, this is the other big problem when you have a war that goes on over a long time. You do start losing men, and once you run out of manpower, it's very, very difficult for you to be able to reinforce. In fact, it's almost impossible. So, looks like the Portuguese actually won a battle there against the Moroccans and forced their army even further south. What I should be doing at this point is trying to go and take Marrakesh. Okay, so a very important event has just come up, and this is one of the national events for Castile, and it wasn't something I was expecting to get this early on in the game because you don't usually. And I was hoping to cover this in a later video, but as it's popped up, let's cover it. Basically, this is the Iberian Wedding. Now, this usually happens if Castile and Aragon have a male and female, it doesn't matter which way round it is. If one has a male and the other one has a female monarch, and they're both of the same dynasty, you will get this option to have a personal union with Aragon. Now, the options basically is we can either not go ahead and get some national stability, and Aragon's opinion of us is lowered, which isn't great, or we can go for this, which is where we form a personal union. Now, some people will dislike us because of these, Burgundy, Navarra and Portugal, but Aragon will like us and we will like them more. We're actually going to take this, and this is very important to us. Now, we will get some rebels turn up over here. Can't do an awful lot about them just yet. Not too bothered about that. The war is more important for us. But what this basically means is that Aragon is now in a personal union with us. And they haven't joined the war yet. I'm not sure if they actually will. May not trigger until the end of the month. But having that personal union with Aragon is very, very useful to us. We have too many diplomatic relations at this point as well. Leading union with Naples, because of course Naples did belong to Aragon. It's not the end of the world for us though, but going slightly over that just means we lose a little bit of diplomatic power. But that is a very, very important event in the history of Castile, so it is good that we take that. We're still sieging these provinces, so I'm going to allow that to continue. Well, it looks like it's going to take a little bit longer than expected to win this war. It's my own fault, really, because I made some really stupid maneuvers early on. So what I will do is we will continue this war and do the peace deal in the next video, and then we can get more to the point of what we're actually doing there. But I hope this has been a little bit more of a demonstration about the tactics the AI employs when moving around their units and how to actually deal with sieges and moving armies around. But most importantly, we did get that personal union with Aragon. We're probably going to get this province sieged out by the noble rebels. It isn't going to be the end of our world, but it is going to cause a few problems for us later. But we will clear that up after the war. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you're still enjoying EU4, and I'll see you next time. So until then, goodbye for now.